So the focus of this board gaming vlog, winner takes all. Board games that you play real time, that you invest lots and lots of hours in, and it comes down to that final moment, win or lose. Games that you love, but have the potential for some serious rage. I'm going to give you my vote in a moment, and then in the comments, your vote for the game based on your collection and based on experience. And my vote is a game I actively play, I actively love, but it is polarizing. So playing role-playing games, a little bit of a background to frame it, playing role-playing games, playing board games out there, playing war games that are very, very complex, that have a lot of moving parts, that are best played over multiple sessions. I mean, think about an epic D&D campaign on there, whether it's AD&D with its complexity or D&D 5th, which it's vastly simplified on there. You're playing week after week for a couple of months. Yes, it might come down to a final battle with Tiamat in the end, and you've invested months and months of your time, but there's been a lot of ups and downs on the way. Board games are supposed to be a little bit more dynamic, a little bit more bite-sized in that, yes, we don't have the rules complexity, we don't have the types of choices that are out there, but in, 2 or 3 hours, or 1 or 2 hours, you get to sit down and you get to have a very, very focused narrative experience. Plug and play, pick up and play. When you're done, pack it back in the box and go home. But it's one thing to play a board game and invest lots and lots of energy into it. Think about playing a board game for 3 hours and doing everything right, everything correct. And it comes down to a final dice roll. It comes down to something random. It comes down to tactically, even with good tactics, crunch the numbers, 33.33 repeating on there. And is that something that you want to play? Or are you totally Euro? So my vote for number 1, Rage, in my collection, but I still come back and play it for the narrative, Dark Souls, the board game. Dark Souls, the board game. So we have kind of a dungeon romp, level up, fantasy, mega boss fight game, but we're going to make it like the video game out there. And you have to grind to get souls and then spend the souls for items. Back at the blacksmith, think item loot drops. But they're random, and you don't quite know what you're going to get. And you have a number of sparks to run, number of counters to run, so you can only go through the dungeon maybe 3 times. And then the gear is the gear. If you get killed along the way, you lose a spark. You make it to a mini-boss, which, the good part about the game, the mini-bosses, the main bosses, and the mega-bosses have an AI system with cards. You select some cards, you randomly shuffle them up, and that determines what it's going to do. And when the boss loses enough life, it rages, it gets all juiced up like Bane, and it goes out there with some even more powerful cards. I will say that the AI is very slick, and it really feels like you're fighting something that is controlled by some otherworldly power on there. Real time, no shortcuts, no house rules. You grind through the dungeon for about an hour and a half to make it to the mini-boss. Then you beat the mini-boss, and you could probably beat the mini-boss on there. Then you grind for maybe another hour and a half, 2 hours, to face the main boss. And the main boss is probably going to kick your butt on there. It's probably going to come down to all that time and investment, real life force, real hours, real energy to make it there. Can you pull it off tactically? And then you could walk, collect your winnings. Congratulations. You've got bragging rights for the week. Call it a day. Or you can gamble it and now face the mega bosses. And I have to say, the mega bosses, they're the hardest bosses that I've ever faced. They're some of the hardest encounters I've ever faced in a board game with the AI. tactically and positioning is everything. If you get hit, yes, you're juiced up. Yes, you're leveled up. You get hit, you're getting smashed on there. And you can get taken out in like 2 turns. And when I played it with some friends, it's a great solo game. Dark Souls is a great solo game because you can play it just at your own pace, 20 minutes here, 30 minutes there, set it up for a week, play it, and you lose. Okay, no big deal. But to bring it to a gaming club and play and invest there and lose, there's been a few moments where like I've had to step back because people are going to flip the table on there. It's crazy. It's crazy, crazy, crazy. Your vote for the type of board game that it all comes down, you've invested 3 hours. It all comes down to this moment. It all comes down to this moment. You know, a true board game, Leroy Jenkins type moment. Good or bad, yes or no, what game in your collection is exactly like that?